Hey guys, thank you once again for tuning in for another amazing video lesson and important subject for discussion that would make a significant difference in your life's quality, level of success, and altogether have the most significant impact on turning your life into an extraordinary experience. The subject of discussion today is the subject of success habits, or how do we install the habits of success, and what are these success? As before, we're going to start this conversation with the most fundamental question. First, we're going to ask ourselves, why do we want to install these habits of success? What if we do, and what if we don't? Please take a pause right now, stop the video, and think for yourself right now. Find some significantly emotionally charged reasons for you why you have to, why there is no way you can see yourself not installing these habits. What are you going to be giving away or not being able to achieve or have in your life if you don't? Think about it. Find very compelling reasons why you want to do it. Because just like everything else, there's always this highly challenging moment that comes along the way that our resolve and our will is tested. And if we don't have a strong why, our minds, because of their design, will find all of the rational validation to give us the reason why to give up and look the other way. But this is not why you're here. You're not watching this video to find a reason why not to. You're here because you want to know how to do it, because you have a strong reason why. So pause this video, sit down and reflect deeply on why and what's in it for you if you are to install the habits of success. Because it's habits what makes you and your success or define your life. And we're gonna find out why exactly this is so as we go forward. There's a great quote stating that motivation is what gets you started, habit is what keeps you going. So we need to be able to learn how to choose a set of empowering habits or habits that are serving our purpose and focus on installing them in order then for perpetual self-sustained forward momentum in the direction we want to head on. Because once we install a habit, that's the beautiful part. We no longer have to do anything for it. We actually feel bad if we are not to perform the habit. And that's the good part, because it doesn't take us any energy anymore. We actually start to enjoy it, and we get this natural endorphins and serotonin and dopamine that comes with doing it and performing the habits. Our system is wired this way to reward us when we do the behavior that we want to do, or the behavior that's good for us. And you will see how rewarding and how powerful you'll start to feel once you start to install these habits one by one by one, because this is how we build up. And I'll explain how this whole system works. Then obviously there are much deeper ways and layers that we can go into, but today we're going to keep it to the point where you can take the practical knowledge you've learned today and apply it directly into your life in the next 1 hour and start gaining results. That's the goal. Because first you make your habits, and then your habits make you. So let's make some habits and then create the best version of ourselves that we can possibly envision at this very moment. Because this is like everything else in life, is a moving target. And as we go along and further in our journey, we will inevitably envision greater versions of ourselves. The key is to continue to progress and enjoy this process, because at the base of it, it's a process. It's not a destination, it's a process. There is no set boundary. The boundary is only here. It's only mental. The only limitation is mental. If you believe it, you can achieve it. Doesn't matter what it is. They have numerous men who have achieved, or women, human beings who have achieved what seemed the impossible at their lifetime, that changed the outlooks of everyone for everything. For example, back in the 50s, Roger Bannister, who was a sprinter, a runner, who would run the 100 meters dash, broke the record and ran it for 3 minutes and just right under 4 minutes. At this point, the human belief was that no one could ever run a mile for less than 4 minutes, because your heart will explode, or just the human body wasn't capable of doing it. The moment he did, in the next year or months following right after, many other athletes went even further or took it even faster. So this is how important a belief is. You can do it if you believe you can. And by installing the habits of success, you're going to have a fundamental belief, or this supporting belief structure, that will get you to no matter what peak you're climbing to, in the most literal way, right? Because we have even climbed up to Mount Himalaya to the Everest, right? So everything is absolutely possible. If we believe we can do it, and we put the effort and time into it, we can do it. Now, that's a whole different story if we just want to be wishful thinking. That's great, but it's not gonna, unless we are taking inspired action, or taking inspired action on a daily basis, we're not gonna be getting anywhere, or we're not gonna be achieving anything that we believe we can, because it's not just the belief, it's the belief in combination with inspired action and so on that begins to unfold that journey in that process into the manifestation and creation of whatever our desire is. So going further in the conversation, first we're going to start with a very fundamental understanding that once you wrap your head around your understanding, or how you look at yourself, at life, and everything will change forever. I do invite you to keep a very open mind and understand this, because this is a fundamental truth of the reality of this physical universe we live in. Everything in the known universe revolves around patterns. Now, what I mean by this, when we talk about objects that are not necessarily alive, like planets, solar system, galaxies, you name it, right? Objects with no consciousness, or at least that we know of, we call it patterns. When we're talking about living beings with consciousness, regardless of what it is, we talk about habits. And sometimes we call it instincts, right? Because lower forms of life that not necessarily have a free will and high level of consciousness don't necessarily have habitual behavior, but they do have instinctual behavior. So everything in the known universe revolves around patterns and habits, including human beings. Where free will comes in play is our choice over what habitual behavior we want to install, and which one we want to, let's say, update, remove, or cancel, right? Because we are constantly being programmed, either by our environment, by our peer group, ourselves, our thoughts, and so on. The key is to take the remote control or the control of this programming within our hands and thus install the software that would help us to get where we want to get. And it's important first to know where we want to get in order to know what software will, or what software, just like if you want to edit a video, you might need a Final Cut or iMovie or some sort of video editor to do it. You need to know where you're going or what you're trying to achieve in order to figure out what is the most effective habits that you can install that will propel you there, right? Because there's lots of habits we can have, but let's put it this way, unless you have consciously analyzed and reflected on all your habitual behavior, from which I'm not going to open this, but I'm just going to mention this. Everything in the human condition is habitual. Every single thing, the thoughts you have, the emotions you feel, the way you speak with people, the way you meet with people, the way you eat your food, the way you sit on your chair, every single thing, even including the side of the bed that you sleep on. Every single thing is habitual. Now we have free will that allows us to choose what those habits are. Habits are a great thing, don't get me wrong. But they're a great thing when they were created consciously and chosen to serve us, rather for us to be automatically locked up in this perpetual state of nonsense. Because if those habits are not serving us and we didn't get to have them consciously, then we are in a perpetual state of nonsense. I hope you get the point. Here's the thing why this is so powerful. If whole spiral galaxies of billions of stars and planets and whatever you want to call it, objects, also follow patterns, what about a poor little human being, right? On the scale of things, if we compare a whole galaxy, just like ours, the Milky Way, is subject to a pattern that it rotates and so on and follows, just like the planets in our solar system, which is a smaller scale model of a greater galaxy. If those humongous objects with their own gravitational force and so on also follow patterns, what about me, you, and everyone else? So this is why it's so important to be conscious and to design our habitual patterns by design. Now, the next extremely important point to understand as we get into this conversation is, where do our habitual behavior originates from? Well, in ancient cultures, and as Aristotle said, or classic cultures, they would say that the popular saying was, give me a child until it's 7 years old and I will show you the man. Or what they meant by this is the initial conditioning on programming through the environment we live in between the age of, let's say, 2 to 7 or 3 to 7, when our minds are most flexible and just plastic and developing. This is where all of our fundamental set of behaviors, habits, patterns, and all these things are developed. And obviously, since we don't have yet, because the rational, logical, and reasoning part of the mind before the age of, let's say, 9 to 10 is not, the critical thinking center is not fully developed yet. We cannot really evaluate or analyze the quality of behavior we expose to in our environment, meaning that because we have what is called the mirror neurons in our body, in our mind, and everything we learn from seeing and copying or modeling someone else. And usually someone else is our most significant parent figures or figures, grown-up figures in our life, mom and dad or whoever our people that care for us, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever the case might be, right? But paternal figures in those early years. We literally, what we're doing is, even if we don't know it consciously, we are observing their behavior and copying it. That's why, for example, I'll give you an example of my own life. Because my mom was a smoker and she still is, I started smoking very early on because I would see my mom with cigarette all the time. So to me, even though I know it was shit, it was something I seen and everybody around me was doing it. So yeah, I got into smoking very early on. I remember stealing cigarettes from my mom's purse when I was maybe first, second grade, and while my mom and dad were watching the soap series on TV and were like literally like zombified looking at the screen, I was at the other end of the apartment on the balcony or the open patio and I was smoking a cigarette. And then the funniest thing was I used to spray deodorant in my mouth so I don't smell like cigarettes, but that was a whole different story, right? So just an example of how our environment is affecting our behavior. All right, and those, I mean, we can go until, you know, next year with examples of this, how our pattern, how our parents' behavior or whoever the significant parent figure is at our life is influencing all of these early behaviors that we, so to speak, inherit from our environment, because our minds at this point are so easily influenced that we just have no choice but to be affected by the environment and our peer group, which at that age obviously we don't have much choice of either. So this is why it's extremely important to become conscious and aware, especially to come up to the point where you can do a habit evaluation and sit down. And again, I invite you after this video to sit down and take an hour or two for self-reflection and do some deep observation of your daily behavior. Break down your week, your days, and notice what habitual patterns of behavior you have, right? It's obviously, sleeping is also an important habit. But let's go first start with your morning, your lunchtime, your afternoon, your evening, your nighttime, right? Like break it down every day and follow through. Notice what behaviors are you running through that, and then notice the ones that are repeating all the time. Now, why is this important? Because we come to the point where we want to evaluate if we have constructive habits or habits that are serving us and serving our purpose, or destructive habits. Habits that are slowing us down. Habits that would lead to our demise. Habits that would wreak havoc to our health, mentally, physically, emotionally, and so on. So we want to be able to evaluate what or where do we stand with our two set of habits at this point. Because we cannot improve something that is not measured or something that we are unaware of. So we want to become first aware of where do we stand right now. What do we need to replace? What do we need to absolutely end with? And so on and so on. So that's why it's important to create an inventory of habits and then evaluate. Is this a positive, a neutral, or a negative? Because the only habits that we should have, or at least strive to have at this point, are positive. All the rest is a waste of time and energy. As we all know, we all get the same 24 hours in a day to make the most out of. And if we don't have constructive, positive habits, then a lot of our time and energy is going to waste. So again, if you have a strong why, you want to upgrade your habits and where you want to go in life, then this next step of evaluating what habits need to go and which one can stay or which one needs to be upgraded is of fundamental importance to give us the awareness of what we want to do, where we want to go, how we can approach this. As I mentioned already, it is either me or yourself that is conditioning and programming your behavior, and I mean behavior as on all different levels, mentally, physically, emotionally, energetically, and so on, or somebody else's. It's not if they are, it's who it is and how. Because we human beings are cybernetic creatures, meaning that we are influenced in any shape and form. However, we do have control over the environment, our environment that we spend the most time in, and our peer group. The two things that influence us the most are our environment and our peer group. So let's say if we're in a toxic environment, you can bet that this toxic environment is affecting you in a toxic way, and it's conditioning you and programming you in a toxic way to most likely have negative thought patterns and negative emotional patterns, which are literally habitual ways of thinking and feeling on a daily basis. Same holds true for your peer group. Now, for example, you're the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you're spending time with 10 alcoholics, well, guess what? You're definitely already the 11th, or you're about to become, or whatever the thing is. So these are the two things within our control that we can change. Because if we want to become amazing, and let's say we don't have the habits yet, maybe you have a friend who has amazing habits, somebody who exercises every day, who eats healthy, who reads books, who does the things that scare everybody else, and so on, that you can spend more time with. And by being in that environment, you'll be influenced by this person's behavior, because it's the behavior, right? It's on the level of being where we want to get with the habits of being this way, not something that we do, because something we do is something we do once in a while, right? For example, just being honest from my own life, I'm not into hiking. I never was, I don't think I'll ever be, especially in environments where there is no lush green or just wild forest with so much life and so on. Like here in LA, where I'm based off, there's a lot of dirt, a lot of not much going on, right? Unless you want to go somewhere up North California and so on, where there's a lot more forest and lush greens and so on. So I don't like hiking. So hiking is something that I do once in a while. However, I do like biking. And this is something I not do, but I have a habit. It's a weekly habit. I definitely bike at least, I would say 3-4 times every week. And it's not something I have to make myself do. No, I usually find the reasons, I need to find, reasons to stay focused on my work, rather than when it's a beautiful day out, which is pretty much every day, to not go out and go for a nice ride on the beach or something of the sort, right? So this is what I mean by being a certain way and doing something once in a while. We want to get those amazing habits on the state of being, to be part of our being, of who we are, how we are. Now, how do habits work? What exactly is happening? Let's look into the mechanics of habits. Well, you probably know or heard before that we have a conscious mind, subconscious mind, and most people don't even know, but just to add this in because it's part of the system, a super conscious mind. Now, the part of our mind, which is the most significant one, and it's the 95% of the iceberg that sits under the water and nobody sees, is the subconscious mind. It's that part of the mind that beside running all of the involuntary life-supporting processes within our body that we don't have to be consciously doing or taking care of, such as blood circulation, heartbeat, breathing while we sleep, food digestion, excretion, you name it. Pretty much everything that we don't have to consciously do does, and also does all of our habits. Or habits, in a way, you can think of them as vinyl records that are the record in our subconscious mind, or the record player in our subconscious mind, plays for us at certain times of the day, because it also has to do with time of the day, location, and so on. All behavior, thought patterns, emotional patterns, they also have a time and location-based triggers. So let's say when you get in your bed, if you only go there to sleep, it's natural, which I do recommend to only use your bed to sleep if you really want to enhance your depth of sleep and sleep quality and ability to fall asleep quickly. I would do recommend that removing any screen and anything not related to sleep from your bedroom, but that's just a good example, right? Not to get into the rabbit hole of sleeping, because I'm passionate on all these topics and we can talk for days and days, but let's get back to habits. So whatever we do in this specific environment, that's the trigger it has on our habitual subconscious mind. So whenever we are in an environment that we do this specific thing, we'll be triggered to do it right away without much thought or effort, which is what is the beautiful part about installing these habits, because initially it's a drag. It is where you have to use your will to will yourself to do these things daily until we install them. But once we do, there is no effort required anymore. It's almost effortless. You do have to do it in a sense, but you don't necessarily or need to will yourself or have the using willpower to will yourself to get through it, right? You just do it. You just do it. And it comes natural, and especially when these habits are things that are, again, benefiting us and getting us where we want to go, well, might as well install these things, just like a great software or upgrade or whatever, app on the phone or an iPad or your computer provides you a significant amount of efficiency and possibilities and gives you the ability to do things that you want to be able to do easier, faster, and quicker, and so on, right? So what do is we use our conscious mind, the 5% of the equation, to will ourselves initially to install these habits over old ones. Because here's the thing, we don't break bad habits, we replace them. Because there is no such thing as breaking a habit. You have to replace the habit. Because here's the thing, once you understand this too, you'll have a lot more clarity why breaking a habit does not work. Now, you see, even though a habit could be detrimental to your health and well-being and prosperity and whatever it is, it's serving some sort of a need that you have. And what do I mean by need? I mean a psychological need. We all human beings have psychological needs, and the fundamental or the basic ones are certainty, uncertainty, significance, and connection or love and belonging. So these are the fundamental four psychological needs that we have. So given this filter or ability to judge, is it coming from here? Is it serving this need? We can look at our habits from that prism and see what need is this specific habit serving at this point, because that's why we have it and that's why we do it, because it's serving a need that we already have. It's fulfilling that need. Now the key to replace that habit is to find a better habit that also fulfills this need, but at the same time is benefiting us too, rather than affecting us in a negative way. So once we know what need our bad habit is fulfilling, we can replace it with a better one that is actually fulfilling that need and serving us at the same time. So that is why it's a key to understand our psychological needs and what's driving our behavior, because our behavior is always driven by needs. It's not a random thing that we just do because we have nothing better to do, right? You would probably agree on this fact with me. So coming from this lens and viewing things from, okay, I want to replace, or I don't like this habit, but what first, or what need is this habit fulfilling for me, and how can I replace it with a better habit that does fulfill the need? Because again, if we are to remove the habit, break the habit, and nothing is fulfilling that need, there's going to be a gap, and this is a need. It's not a wishful thinking, it's not something we want, it's not a desire, no, this is a need. So we will default back to our previous behavior. For example, cigarettes is a great habitual behavior that is addictive behavior that is, is literally very hard to break. I was a smoker for the longest of times, and I quit and I quit and restarted on so many times and for so many long periods of time that at this point I could not any longer recall or count them, right? It's been on so many times, and what my biggest mistake was that instead of finding a better habit to replace smoking with, I was trying to break the habit of smoking but not fulfilling the gap that was left from me stopping to smoke, which in my thing was something to play with. Once I realized this, all I started to do was either to chew on gum or to have something in my hand to play with. And usually I'll just have a cigarette that I play with. So every time in the past when this desire came, I'll just, maybe if I was hanging out, because usually it would be in a social environment when I want to, be hanging out with friends and maybe have a few drinks and so on, that maybe I'll get a craving for cigarettes. So when this happens, I'll be like, hey, let me have a cigarette. Somebody will give it to me. I'll just put it between my fingers and just hold it like this, play around with it, hold it, play, don't light it up. And, maybe 30 minutes later, my friend would be like, hey, you gonna smoke this? I want to smoke. And I'll be, no, you can have it back. At this point, the craving is gone. So it was just my thing to kind of keep busy, my idle hand in a way. So just a great example, because smoking is one of these very destructive habits that definitely fulfills a need, some type of a need, but not necessarily serving us at the highest level or doing anything beneficial in the long term, right? Because that's the other part we're gonna go into. Now, let's start this way. How do we build a habit? Well, it's pretty simple. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Repetition is the mother of all skill and knowledge. That is, period. Case closed. Now, there's ways we can accelerate the process of creating a habit or learning or memorizing things. And that is by raising or being in a very heightened state of emotion, regardless of is it positive or negative emotion. Doesn't matter. That's the only thing we can shortcut this thing. But when it comes down to normal everyday behavior, and most, unless you are able to put yourself in a highly emotional state, repetition is the way to go. So you just continue to do it, continue to do it, continue to do it, continue to do it until the groove that's being cut. Because think of it this way, every new habit that we are going to create or install in the system is literally creating a groove in a new record on the surface of our brain, the neural pathways, right? So the more we do it, the deeper and more expressed the grooves become. It's just like a great example of this is Grand Canyon, right? Grand Canyon was created in hundreds of millions of years of water running through and wind erosion and so on that carved this tremendous natural wealth. But it was at that point, at this point today, it's so dramatic that, wow, it's impossible to replace it or change it or do anything about it. Like something dramatically catastrophic needs to happen in order for the Grand Canyon to kind of disappear from the picture. Well, it's the same with a well-established habit. So in order for us to install a new habit, repetition is what's gonna get us done for us. Repetition, and what I mean is daily repetition. At least once per day, sometimes even more often, depending on how bad do you want to install this habit. And then it comes down to what if you do and what if you don't, right? How are you to gain by having it? Now, there are a lot of different opinions on how long does it take to establish a habit or how many days of repetitive repetition it takes. They go from 30 days to 60 some days and so on, right? There's so many different ones. Here's a number I want you to strive for and keep in mind. 90 days. If you do something for 3 months, repetitively every single day, you can be sure that this is now a well-established habit. Everything else, yeah, maybe works, maybe doesn't. It depends again on your level of emotion, like how emotionally charged you are and so on while doing these things, and how bad do you want it, how strong your why is and how strong your will is. But to be sure that you have installed a habit, you have to definitely do it for at least 90 days. Definitely at least. You'll continue to do it afterwards, but what I mean is you want to be looking for at least 90 days of repetitive daily doing it and taking action and making sure that this installation is taking place and you're laying down the grooves of this record that you want to be able to play automatically on demand, day in, day out, with no effort, because that's the key, right? So again, you don't break bad habits, we replace them with better ones because the wiring is already there. Again, we can use it and just change it, right? Because there's some habits that we could have that are actually, if we are to replace the bad part of it, we can keep the habitual behavior that's established serving that need again, but we just can replace it with a better habit. So we don't break a bad habit, we just simply replace it with a better one. So again, this is why it's very important to sit down and then evaluate. Again, first sitting with the question, why do you want to install a new habit, and so on. Then also reflecting on what are doing the habit inventory right now and figuring out what habits do you have in this moment, which one are constructive and which one are destructive or neutral, but basically calculating or analyzing what's serving you and what's not serving you. Then once we get through that filter, we want to get to the filter of, okay, what need is this habit serving in my life? And what is a better habit that I can replace it with that would still serve the same need, but it will be good for me? So we want to do some self-reflection and figure out where do we stand, what do we need to change, and what should we keep, or what would be the most effective way to already use the infrastructure that's already installed and created, but just replace, let's say, the train that runs on it. If that analogy makes sense, because once you have the rails for the train, you can change the engine, you can change the cars and all that. You don't need to change the infrastructure or the rails. As long as they're built to be compatible with the railing, anything would go. So that's the key. We already have the wiring. We don't need to change everything from ground up. We need to replace it with something better. So that's a very good point to sit and contemplate about. Now, this video is about the habits of success. Here's a very important point. Depending on where your life is taking you and what you consider to be success and what do you want to achieve in your life, there are obviously fundamental habits that I'm going to share with you in the next few moments. But I want you to think about what specific habits would be your success habits, because they are, again, fundamental habits that I do recommend regardless of what you want to do in life. But then there's going to be habits that are specific to what your pursuit and field of expertise or whatever it is that you do that will be specific in that case, and most likely would not be necessary in other cases, right? Things that you can turn into habitual behaviors that's gonna benefit you in your career path, in your life's purpose, and so on, based on what it is. So I do recommend sitting down again and continuing on with this reflection process, because again, there is no point to install a habit that's only gonna be, again, disrupting your life or not serving you at all. If you're gonna take the time and put the energy, effort, and everything else necessary to install a new habit or replace a new one, might as well replace it with something that you don't have to replace later on, right? If that makes any sense. I hope it does, because it's a very important thing to consciously, again, choose the habits we want to install so we don't have to do it again. Because, again, it takes 90 days of consecutive repetition in order to install a new habit, or to at least securely install it so we know it's actually anchored in there. It's not going to go anywhere unless we decide to replace it. So might as well make a very, very clear decision of what it is that we want to install and why. So sitting down and evaluating again why, what, how. So here's the fundamental habits that, regardless of what your pursuit is and what might be specific habits that you need to install in your case to be better and excel at what you do and create an extraordinary life and build an extraordinary career and be a genius in your field. Those habits that I'm about to list right now and share with you, they're independent, regardless of what you do. Even if you're an old lady and you don't aspire for much, but you just want to increase exponentially the quality of your life by doing these habits, you will 10x the quality of your life. Now, that's not to pick up on old ladies. I'm just saying that regardless of where you are in your life's path right now, these habits are going to serve you in a tremendous way regardless. So let's look at it. Now, Habit number one is meditation. And I'm going to repeat this, meditation. Meditation is a habit. It's a daily practice that unless you have, you're missing on so much that it is hard to describe. Now, if anyone, I always say this, if anyone was to ask me, what would I have said to my 16 or 18-year-old self if I had the ability to meet him some time ago, I would definitely recommend to learn and start to meditate daily. Because there hasn't been like in my personal life, meditation has been the one habit that really changed everything. And I do mean everything. Like my life became from living my life to living a life in high definition. And it opened the doors to so many other things in my life that it just transformed my life on so many levels. So meditation is a habit that I do highly recommend. Now there are tons of different types of meditations you can do nowadays. In a moment, I will teach you a very simple one. But I want you to know that there are thousands different variations of meditations at this point. What I would recommend formally is to go and, if you really want to learn to practice meditation, once things normalize in the world, then we can still gather in group gatherings and so on, because things as they are right now are a little bit weird. I would definitely recommend going to a Vipassana meditation retreat. They usually take 10 days, are free for first-time attendees. They teach you exactly how to meditate in a very deep way. This is a highly effective meditation practice that is based on awareness meditation. And what I'm going to teach you in a moment is similar to this, but not in depth, because in 10 days, you will really learn how to concentrate and meditate for long periods of time. And you will have everything provided. That's the wonderful thing. They give you bed, they give you food, they teach you how to meditate, and all you have to do at the end is to donate whatever you feel it was worth it to you. This is something I highly recommend. This is something I did some years ago, and I really loved it. It wasn't easy, it was challenging, but it was definitely well worth my 10 days to really install this deep habit of meditation, because before that I already had a habit of meditation, but was nothing like that. So meditation is a fundamental habit to install and practice on a daily basis if you want to enhance the quality of your life. It's as simple as that. If you want to live a high definition life, you want to start meditating every day. This is the simplest way to describe it. Unless you're meditating every single day or you have a solid meditation practice, your life is like watching that old school standard definition TV broadcast where you see the little stars and all that kind of stuff and everything is kind of shit, right? Well, that's the difference between full high definition and standard definition. And even right now, check out the lowest definition rendering on the YouTube video I'm shooting. Go from high def to the lowest and see where the difference is. That's how important and how significant meditation can be in your life. Now, here's a simple meditation I'm going to teach you, because this is not a class on meditation, but I'm going to teach you something that you can take tomorrow or today, depending on the time of the day it is, and practice it. This is external awareness meditation practice. And what I recommend is doing it every time you step out of home. And best of all is to do it in the park or a place where you're surrounded with great nature. And I'm not saying going in the forest, but if you want to, if you live close to or in the forest, even better. What I'm suggesting is do it in the park, because spending time in nature is already, in a way, is almost, depending on how you do it, is a great meditation. Now, first thing first, if you're gonna do it, what I recommend is if you need to take your phone, take it with you, but put it on airplane mode or silent, so you're not gonna be bothered, because you don't have to reply and be everyone's little secretary, right? You can start living your life on your own agenda. But put your phone on silent and take a walk in the park, for example. And what I want you to focus, this is again, external awareness. Again, these two words, external awareness. I want you to start focusing all your senses on your external environment, right? So let's say if it's sunny, feel the sun rays on your skin, the warmth. Is it tingly? Like, focus on these on the sensations. If it's breezy or windy, feel the wind on your skin. Listen to the sounds in the environment. Are there birds? Are there kids playing? People talking? Dogs barking? The leaves of the trees moving in the wind? Look at the colors. Look at the distance. Don't just focus on all these things in your senses. Smell the air, smell the flowers, smell the grass, smell everything that you can smell. So engage as many senses simultaneously as you can. So smell the environment, observe the environment, and I don't mean zoom in, but like with wide view, just try to capture as much of the environment as you can. Feel as much as you can from the environment on your skin and listen to the environment. So literally, deeply dive into the environment and just observe it with all the senses that you have. And as you do so, as you become better at this, you can be walking around. I want you to also focus on the sensations within your body. The easiest one to feel would be the pressure on your feet as you walk, right? You're going to feel the pressure on the soles of your feet. As you walk, you'll feel pressure. So feel that pressure on the soles of your feet. Any sensations within your body, again, maybe it's the sun rays on your skin, maybe it's the breeze touching your skin. Again, listen, smell, and see the environment. And just be fully absorbed. Instead of thinking about things, just be fully absorbed in the environment around you. Just enjoying it and being present. This is what it's called, being present and aware of what's going on within and without. So this is a very simple meditation practice that you can take like tomorrow or right now and start practicing if you want to get a taste of meditation. Now, the next habit is the habit of proper breathing, or relearning how to breathe. I must admit that 99% of humanity does not know how to breathe, which leads to significant amount of problems, from lack of energy to high amounts of stress and anxiety to improper posture to improper digestion and all kinds of other things, or inability to perform physical exertion and so on. So relearning how to breathe. What do I mean by this? Because breathing is a habit, in a sense of we do it habitually, right? When we sleep and so on. So we have a preferred pattern of breathing, whatever that might be. If you're not breathing here with your diaphragm in your belly right here, and you're breathing here in your chest, like pretty much everybody else is, you're breathing in the most ineffective and unhealthy way. The key is to learn to breathe here in your diaphragm. So what I recommend is placing one hand up here on your chest, another one down here, and every day practicing for 15 to 20 minutes of breathing through your nose Inhale through your nose and exhale through your nose, because that's the other part. Not only do people breathe here, but they breathe, inhale and exhale through their mouths. Well, if that was the case, why the hell do we have a nose? To smell? Yeah, right. We use the nose to breathe in and breathe out. And we use the diaphragm to breathe in, because the majority of the lungs alveoli are right here in the bottom side of the belly. So for technically speaking, for every 2 breaths you take up in the chest, all you need to do is take 1 down here. And not only does it twice more effective, but when you breathe up here, your breathing is shallow, and you generate stress and anxiety within your body, because you only breathe here naturally. You would always only breathe here if you're stressed out or under a lot of stress or fear when you are being attacked or something like this. So 1 hand here, the other one on your belly, and what you want to learn to do is to only inhale and exhale through your nose, through your nostrils, and only move the bottom hand that's on your belly, to where you learn to not be moving your chest whatsoever. It's very interesting when you actually relearn how to breathe, that your chest never moves anymore. And sometimes, like, I go to medical exams and they're like, oh, breathe, take some deep breaths. And I do, and they're like, well, you're not breathing. Yeah, really, I'm not breathing. Well, your chest is not moving. Well, yeah, dude, I don't breathe in my chest. Like, and it's funny because it's literally not moving whatsoever. And I take much deeper breaths, and I'll demonstrate right now. So here's my hand here. Here is this one right here. So this is one normal for me, inhale and exhale, or 1 full breath, just as an example. So that's fundamental habit number 2. Now, fundamental habit 3 is constructive or creative thinking. What do I mean by this? Entertaining and thinking about only positive, constructive things. Nothing else whatsoever, because everything else is a waste of time, and you, if anything, you'll be attracting to yourself and creating in your life things that you don't want. The most effective type of thinking, if you are to ever need to think, which is also not necessary to do all the time, because thinking, like everything else, is only effective when it's done right and when it's done when it's necessary, would be to think constructively and creatively, or meaning always focusing on the best case scenario, always projecting in your head or in your thoughts what you want to happen in any situation, or what's the best possible outcome that you can think of. Thinking about this, try to visualize it, try to put it into a constructive thought, rather than trying to think about or thinking about what you don't want to happen, what you want to avoid, what you don't like, and so on. Think about the things you like, think about the things you want, think about the best case scenarios. This is it. This is a fundamental habit of critical importance, because again, thinking is a habitual pattern. We all have habitual patterns of thinking, and whatever that you have been conditioned to think is what is going on in your head and regurgitating all the time. So if you want to change your mental tape that's going on all the time, change or adopt the habit of constructive creative thinking, or positive towards rather than away from thinking. Thinking about best case scenarios, thinking about the things you want, thinking about the things you want to take place in your life. Now, The next fundamental habit is the habit of self-awareness and self-reflection. Just as we started in the talk, and I already gave you this little homework to do for your own sake, the habit of constant self-reflection and self-awareness, meaning that you are aware of, or at least for the longest or as much as possible throughout the day, of what you're doing, so you're not constantly running on autopilot. So you're always aware of what behaviors are present, like what behaviors are you doing, what thoughts are running in your head, what emotions you're feeling, what sensations are there, like what's going on in your environment. So becoming aware of yourself and also of your environment, just as the meditation I recommended of external awareness, right? Because there is internal and external awareness. Either we are focused on us or our environment, or both simultaneously, right? We build up to both simultaneously, step by step, rather than trying to overwhelm ourselves at once, because this is a learned skill like everything else, and you can learn and become amazing at it, and by doing so you'll be amazed at how much better your life becomes and how much you know about yourself and how capable you are to analyzing and making decisions when it comes down to your habits, to your behavior, how you feel, how you think, and so on. Because unless we are aware of something, there's nothing we can do about it, right? Unless we know that something's off, unless we know that we have a bad habit, unless we know that we are constantly thinking about something that's not bringing us what we want, but it's gonna, if anything, bring us exactly what we don't want, then there's nothing we can do. So the habit of self-awareness and self-reflection, meaning we take time every week, at least once a week, to sit down and self-reflect for a few hours or many hours or the whole day, having time to self-reflect. Hey, what's going on here for me? Like, how has this week been for me? What is there that's good? What is there that I can improve? Are my efforts creating the results that I want in my personal life, in my professional life, and so on? Are my habits getting better? Do I feel better? Do I think better? Right? Like reflecting on all these things and evaluating from an honest place, because we cannot improve that what is not measured. We need to measure in order to know where we stand and to be able to improve. So those two are also fundamental habits. And the last one is healthy diet and daily exercise. So healthy diet means eating alive food, or food that's alive, food that's not processed, that doesn't come in a box, that doesn't have, some artificial flavors or whatever. Food that's real. Vegetables, fruits, nuts, berries, honey, good fats, and so on. Just everything that's real, everything that hasn't been processed. And I would also recommend, this is a tough one, but I'll also recommend minimizing the amount of meat you consume as well, because meat is not great. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of work from the body to digest it and excrete it too. So healthy diet is live, high quality products for the most part. Nuts, berries, and those type of things. So vegetables, fruits, nuts, good fats such as ghee, coconut fat, right? Fat is necessary. As sugar goes, honey is great. It's all natural. Maybe some of you who are vegan, maybe you would say, oh, it's a animal product. Well, in my opinion, it's not an animal product, because it's just honey. Now, if you're eating bees, then yeah, that's a whole different story, right? But again, coming back to the habits, combining healthy food or healthy daily diet with a daily exercise routine who's gonna do you magics. Because in order to control your body weight and be in a great shape, it's more what you put in that matters than what you do with the body. Even though it's important to be moving all the time, that's fundamentally important, right? To at least every day take a 30-minute walk. That's the minimum of daily exercise I recommend. At least 30 minutes of daily walking. You don't have to run, you don't have to, as long as you're moving your body, you're standing up, moving your body, and you're just active throughout the day, that's a great thing. This is something I recommend. I do not recommend whatsoever sitting down for long periods of time unless you're meditating. Do not sit down for long periods of time. It's one of the worst things you can do for yourself. And if you're gonna be sitting down, always keep your spine straight. This is very important as well, so the energy can flow freely from head to bottom and back. So daily exercise and daily healthy diet is the last set of fundamental habits. So these are 5 fundamental habits that, regardless of what your goal is, where you want to go in life, and what in your perception or in your own definition is an extraordinary life, will allow you to have this extraordinary life and be successful regardless. So, a few more points. In order to start installing or get better at installing habits, here's a little hack I want you to start doing. I want you to create an Excel sheet or something similar, a spreadsheet that you can use, where you can check mark every single day that new habit that you're installing. And the goal being, right, because what is not measured cannot be improved. So in order for us to keep ourselves accountable, right, because you need to keep yourself accountable in order to will yourself to do it every day, keep a spreadsheet. So let's say maybe this week, or I mean, not this week, but this quarter, right, because that's how we're going to look at it. 90 days is 1 quarter. If you want to become a meditator or install the habit of daily meditation, then you want to start create this spreadsheet, create 90 days, and start marking off every single day when you meditate. Every single day. That way you'll be keeping yourself accountable, and you know where you stand and how many days you missed and so on. The key is not to miss a day, because you really cannot make up for it. So keep a habit tracker and check mark every single time you do it every single day. You can do it for more. You can combine meditation with proper breathing, right? You can meditate and simultaneously train yourself to be in the proper breathing state. That's another hack for stacking habits together that are complementary, that can be performed together to accelerate the process of habit installation. This is something else that you can do, and this is something I help my clients with, to install or to create a stack of habits that are complementary to each other. They can be practiced together simultaneously to accelerate the process of habit installation. That's a very powerful way to go about it. So meditation and proper breathing would be 2 great habits to stack together. Fundamental level of importance to that makes and helps our understanding of why is it so easy to install a bad habit and why is it so hard to install a good one, is based on the fact that bad habits such as smoking or eating shitty fast food and all kinds of crap, or whatever the hell it is, you know, that you're doing, or taking prescription drugs that are not prescribed to you and you don't need, like painkillers, and or, you know, getting high on whatever the hell it is you're getting high. Hopefully you're not, but if you are, is that bad habits have immediate positive effect that we experience. So I won't say positive, but in a way, they give us an immediate effect that we're looking for, right? We immediately see the effects that we're looking for from bad habits, where from good habits, it's the exact opposite. We don't see the positive effect until it's been, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks. It needs to build up, like the habit needs to build up, because it's a cumulative effects that good habits actually have. They are based on cumulative effects rather than immediate effects. And again, giving the following, or taking for example the study done with kids to calculate their long-term success in life or happiness and so on, which is the short or long immediate or delayed gratification. The marshmallow test, when they did the marshmallow test, if a child was able to, let's say, wait for a little bit longer to get 2 marshmallows, or should it have just one right now, right? When they were doing this experiment and then checked in later on with all these kids to see where they were, the kids that were able to delay gratification were highly successful, and the ones that are not able to delay and wanted immediate gratification, for the most part, weren't anywhere in life. So that's based on this very same principle. Good habits require delayed gratification. Bad habits are based on immediate gratification. That's why they give you immediate gratification, but on the long run, you have the opposite, negative effect. Cumulative negative effects, not just one, but cumulative negative effects. And it's the exact opposite with good habits. They take a while to build in, and for you to cumulatively, because the positive effect is a cumulative effect, to actually become present and experience in your life. But once it does, since it's a cumulative effect, it's exponentially affecting positively and improving the quality of your life. So this is why, again, it's so much easier to install a bad habit and so much harder to install a good one, because of immediate gratification and delayed gratification. Simple as that. And as I mentioned already, since you are the one who knows exactly where you want to go in life, what you want to achieve, what your dreams are, what your life's purpose, mission, and so on is, sit down and think about what would be the fundamental habits of success that would allow you to reach the level of success that you know you deserve to have and you are capable of, because it's those habits that will get you there. So sit down and think about it. Determine what these habits are and then install them. Invest the 90 days necessary to install these habits, and then you're going to see that for the rest of your life, for the 90 years that you're going to live, being that you're also having the healthy diet and exercise and meditation and breathing and all these wonderful fundamental habits of success, you will be enjoying a long, vital existence with amazing experiences, wealth, prosperity, joy, fulfillment, and everything else wonderful that we wish you to have and you wish for yourself. Now, I do hope that this was another amazing video that added tremendous amount of value to you. And it was, again, it took a lot of practical steps that you can take and apply tomorrow into your daily life. I do want to remind that down below is a link to my coaching calendar, and I offer a complimentary coaching session to everyone who takes me up on my offer. I want to help you to solve your greatest challenge or to seize whatever your greatest opportunity is this moment is. So go ahead, click on the link down below, find a date and time that's available, schedule a coaching call. I would love to serve you powerfully and empower you to seize the day. Also, I have created an amazing personal transformation and self-mastery group on Facebook that you can become a member of and communicate and connect with other amazing human beings which are on the same path that you are. And as I mentioned already, your environment in your peer group is one of the most fundamental things that influences you and conditions you every single day. So might as well join a peer group that is going to serve your greater good. Also, in the coming month, I'm going to have 12 different online workshops or webinars due to the conditions still going on with the coronavirus and social gathering restrictions. I really wanted to host live events and workshops in person, but this right now is a bit problematic. And to make it easier for everyone and for people to, from all of the world to tune in and take advantage of the webinar, I've made the events and webinars, and down below you'll find the link to my Eventbrite page where you're gonna see all of these webinars, the dates, the topics, and so on. So please join us. There's also gonna be a live webinar on this very same topic, but going in more details and answering your questions and going even deeper and customizing it based on, if it's a small group of people, we'll make it very custom and so on. So please RSVP and tune in live on Zoom in the coming month for a webinar. If you think that this was a great video with a lot of value that was helpful to you, or you learned something useful and somebody else can benefit, please like it, share it with your friends. Leave me a comment if you have a question. Also post the question down below. I'll be happy to answer it. I'm always happy to serve you guys powerfully, to be of service, to add value, and to empower you, to inspire you and educate you on how to unlock your infinite potential and stretch it even beyond into the level of genius, because we all are born and brought into this existence with amazing gifts, and part of our life's purpose and on this path is to discover what our gifts are, to develop them, and then to share them so we can have the greatest positive impact on the world. That's what we are brought here to do. We are here brought in this world to be amazing, to be of service, to play full out, and to enjoy an extraordinary life. Thank you so much for tuning in once again and watching this video. I love serving you. Thank you. Bye-bye.